Arsenal have reached a full agreement on personal terms with Christian Mosquera. New proposal submitted after the opening bid were 14 million was rejected by Valencia. Arsenal hope to get the deal done for a fee in excess of 20 million euros, but full personal terms agreed for Arsenal. We're delving into this story, plus looking at Liverpool's pursuit of Mark Guéhi, which I think has taken a very positive turn, and an update on the future of Victor Gyokeres. Will Arsenal wait around, or are we about to see a hijack later in the window with the pricing issue still rumbling on? Hit that like and share button for us, please. Make sure you are subscribing to the Football Terrace. Let's do this. Welcome back, everybody, to the show. Let's jump into this. Arsenal, we're not going to dwell on any of the negativity that is surrounding Arsenal. I understand why people are frustrated. But this young man, I think he's 21 years old, centre-back, Mosquera, I know very little about him until the Arsenal links a few days ago. But as like every self-respecting football fan, you do your research, you start looking at the player. And at the price you're talking, what an amazing piece of potential Arsenal are buying themselves here. Now, I know the reaction will be, Terry, we don't need potential. We need players to win now. I think that's coming later in this window for you. I think that's going to happen. A striker's a guarantee. I think a wide player will come in as well. We'll assess those players as and when they arrive. But I think you're going to try to buy ready now, or at least very good to brilliant players in those positions. But the one thing Arsenal shouldn't do is neglect the future in the short term. And you should always be looking at players that, one, like Mosquera, that can come in and make an impact in the right games. I think Premier League-wise, he's made for it. He has such an elite physical profile, and his recovery pace is amazing. And what that recovery pace does, and it will enable Arsenal to continue defending with him in the team as aggressively as they always do, whilst minimizing that vulnerability at the back because of that recovery speed. And for me, that is a trait which is increasingly valuable in the modern day game, especially the Premier League. I think he's about 6'2", 6'3" as well. Great mobility with a man for a man his size, wonderful strength and acceleration. So the physical attributes are already there at such a tender age. Now, what's really interesting is that he's right-footed as well. And if you use Y-Scout, you can actually study this in more detail. I read this in a scouting report, so I looked at it. He's right-footed, I believe, is what I've read, but he's very comfortable playing on the left-hand side. And I think that's key for some versatility for Arsenal. We know who the main two centre-backs are going to be, Saliba and Gabriel. That isn't going to change, in my view, during the short term. But with injuries and suspensions, if Mosquera is able to come in and have the impact, adapt to the Premier League sooner rather than later, this could be, especially at the price, an excellent, a little mini masterstroke here for the future. And I understand, listen, Arsenal, it's your football club. You might only be focused on the players that can have a winning impact now. That's fair. But for me, as an investment, when you read up on this young man, the price you're talking, this could be an excellent little deal for Arsenal Football Club. No doubt about it. Before we go on to Liverpool and talk centre-backs, though, we're going to move into another story that surrounds Arsenal, Victor Gyokeres, Manchester United as well, the two clubs currently chasing him down. Liverpool on the periphery, they may come in. But there was an update from the sporting president who says, Victor Gyokeres, he says, I am not going to say what the price is. The player knows what it is. I can tell you that Victor won't leave for 60 million euros plus 10. He won't. He just won't. Now, we obviously all know that this was a figure which Gyokeres and his camp believe was pre-agreed, predetermined. And they're heavily frustrated, along with potential buyers being frustrated. this situation. There's also an additional a bit of information that comes with this quote. He goes on to say that in recent weeks we have been paying attention. I saw a player, Zubimendi, who is 6 months younger than Gyokeres, go for 65 million euros. And I saw Cunha move to Manchester United for around 75 million euros. We are talking about players who are 26 years old. I believe Victor could leave unless he has the worst agent in the world, which I don't believe, as his agent is one of the best in the world. So, listen, they're doing what they've been doing the whole summer sporting. It appears they're going back on the agreement, even though Gyokeres' camp believe that they have pure, unadulterated evidence of a written agreement, a gentleman's agreement, nothing contracted, nothing binding legally, that 60 plus 10 was going to be the agreed price. Still, unless you think you're going to lose out on the player, I still think Manchester United, who are second choice for Gyokeres, and Arsenal would be silly just to bow down to Sporting Lisbon's demands right now. However, where this could be positive for Manchester United is there are reports from Germany, and I think people are still waiting to see them confirmed by other sources, that Leipzig are now willing to drop down to the 70 million euro asking price. If that happens, a lot of credible journalists believe Arsenal, who see Gyokeres and Šeško as essential co-equals, they will then move for Šeško. Now, that changes the dynamic somewhat, though, for Gyokeres, Sporting, and potentially Man United. Man United maybe then become the front runners if Liverpool don't get involved, which is great. I'm still praying, hoping that Liverpool don't get involved. If there's then only one buyer, there's a gentleman's agreement. You don't get a bidding war. And I think that's something both Man United and Arsenal, and look, this could also be partly the strategy why Gyokeres' camp don't want it to be seen as, put out the news that Arsenal is the preferred destination, because it does stop a bidding war. And I think Man United are quite happy. Whether it's the truth or whether it isn't, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to get a bidding war when the player only wants Arsenal. You're only going to get that bidding war if he's open to both equally and both teams start bidding. You're seeing that with João Pedro at the moment. If Newcastle keep bidding, Chelsea are going to have to keep increasing their price until the day the player says, I only want that football club. So it's a really interesting dynamic. Arsenal still the favourites. If Arsenal want the player, they get the player. They have a giant in their hands. Still, listen, I like Šeško. I think he's very, very good. I think Gyokeres is a level above, is who they should go for. But it doesn't appear publicly anyway that Sporting are yet ready to yield on the asking price for the player. But I want to get your views. I want to get your opinions on this in the comments section below. Now, moving away from the striker conversation, Fabrizio today retweeted this tweet and stated, as soon as the Kwanzaa deal is complete, which is very soon, and it is now complete, I believe, Liverpool will activate centre-back options. Guéhi is on the shortlist and appreciated by Liverpool, as well as more Premier League clubs. Diomande can be the replacement for Crystal Palace. Now, the fact that he has retweeted this would suggest, again, he's not posting the same message, but it suggests, again, that this is a deal that is going to maybe accelerate quickly. And I think that this is one that Liverpool, again, people keep asking why Arsenal are delaying the striker market. Well, they're leading the race with the two strikers thereafter. There's no need for them to rush. They're trying to drive the price down. The situation with Guéhi is a little different. Is up until now, I haven't seen very many, if any, reports that said he only wants Liverpool. There are other clubs like Chelsea, Newcastle that are looking at the player. He's available for a very competitive price. So Liverpool want to remove the threat of other Champions League teams coming in to get him. Been saying it before and I'll say it again. I know a lot of Liverpool fans don't agree up front, but I think they'll see it next season. This player can be as good for them as Konate. A different profile of defender, plays in a different way, but I think he is tip-top quality. And I mean this with all due respect to Crystal Palace, who defend very, very well. I think he'll handle the one-on-one and more vulnerable type of defending that you have to do at the bigger clubs, where your team presses aggressively, where you have to step out of your position, where there's a lot of one-on-one defending in difficult and isolated areas of the pitch. It's very different defending as a centre-back for Liverpool compared to Crystal Palace. Palace quite often will have your centre-back next to you, your full-back on the outside, a midfielder or two or a winger dropping into defensive positions, meaning the zone of which you are covering, and most work in that way, is filled full of like teammates that can help block off runs, can help block off the passing lanes. It's very different when you move to a bigger team. But I really think Guéhi has the ability to handle that very, very well indeed. So we'll see what happens in the coming days, but it does appear very much like, very, very, very much like that deal is going to start to accelerate sooner rather than later. But as ever, look, on these deals, I want to get your views. I want to get your opinions. I want to know where you think these players will end up, what you think is going to happen. Leave your comments below. Can't wait to read them. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.